So let's get into this, because this is something that I think a lot of people will connect to, especially since we have, like, as you know, thousands of aspirants every year from our state, trying to clear either whether it's the NPSC, UPSC, or competitive exams and such. So I think this will be a very relevant talk. And like we discussed, I told you also, and even I'm happy that you are also of that same feeling, that you don't want to be giving, like, generic advice. That the things that people who have cleared the exams always usually tend to give that same talk. And we'll get to that in a bit. But the beginning of your journey, I want to know, like, when did it actually sink in that, like, you're serious about this? Was it the role that your parents played? How much was it of, from your parents and from your own self? And yeah, just break it down, that initial part.
Yes, my parents did have my dad especially would keep encouraging and tell me that a life in public service is something which, and especially the Naga way of doing things also, we are so giving back to the community,
Right.
So that was one of the factors. But it was, like I was saying, during the last phase of college when I decided that I'll give this a shot. And initially after graduating, I came back home to Nagaland, and I was working for around a year as a lecturer in a college in Mohokchung.
Okay.
And my idea was that I'll take independence from my parents, as in I
salary,
keep earning some
right,
salary, and I'll study on the side. But somehow, very quickly, I realized that I couldn't manage to do both things. So I quit that, and I landed up in Delhi. This is around, I think, 2005. I graduated in 2004.
Okay.
2005, I ended up in Delhi. And
for coaching, obviously.
Coaching, yeah. The first time I wrote it, I was still like hanging out with my friends because, I had a lot of friends from college and from back home who were in Delhi. And it was my first time in Delhi also.
Okay.
So I wrote the prelims and I cleared it. So I was taking coaching and writing the exam. But soon I realized that,
that's not happening.
It's not happening. I mean, prelims I must have cleared like that. But this exam demanded more out of me. So, by the way, I got through in my third attempt. So as each attempt went, one of the things I realized was this exam requires all of me, in the sense I had to cut my social circles. I actually stopped hanging out with, my friends. I had to literally go inside a cave.
Right.
So when, you start doing that, then you also paying enough, giving enough of yourself to the exam, which is one of the things I find many people who go for these coaching classes, we are unable to do because we are so caught up with our social obligations,
Right. I think that is something, yeah, please. I think that is something that I've noticed, and that's been something that's been very clear, that a lot of people are very smart and intelligent, but when it comes to, like you said, and the stories that we've heard from other people who have cleared it also, is that the commitment level is on another level. Like, you can't just be smart, that's not enough. You can't just be, you have to, I don't know if that's the only case, but like you're saying, go in a cave and literally, spend all your time on and focus on trying to clear it.
For me, what I used to do was, each time I felt low in terms of motivation, I would see my colleagues who, especially from UP and Bihar, these guys would be staying in like a one single room with a mattress and table and books, and putting themselves, whereas us now guys, we are still having our social life and doing that, which difficult to get there with that, one of the things that I tell people is that before getting into it, it's important to know how many people are writing the exam, in terms of, don't do it just because your parents have asked you to or everyone else is doing it. Get an idea about the exam. So, for example, 2019, both the NPSC and UPSC. 2019, the number of people writing NPSC, around 15,000 people wrote NPSC for 45 posts. And among these 45 ESC, DSP, though, it's not, I mean, it's probably 8 of them. Right. And if you come to UPSC, the numbers are even more mind-boggling. 2019, 8 lakh people applied for 800 jobs, you know. And out of 800, IAS, and that'll be less.
Again, that'll
also,
just be,
you know?
yes, a handful.
So if you look at the chances of getting through, it just comes down. You know, 1 in every 1,000 people who writes would get through for UPSC, and for NPSC maybe 1 in every 300. So understand these things, you know.
Right.
You're going to be fighting it out with a lot of people, so you really have to up your game if you want to get there, right?
It's not easy, right? Because like a lot of people try. I've seen them try. They're smart people, and it's not like they're not trying also. But to be like, you know, like the stories that I've heard, and now you're sharing your story also. Like the people who've cleared it, it takes a whole, I mean, I'm repeating myself, but just the next level of commitment. And
I'll just tell you
just one thing quickly about because the numbers thing that you brought up, I really wanted to touch on this, is that I can't repeat the exact numbers that you said, but it's mind-boggling. And if you're a smart enough student, then you'd realize the probabilities also of like, you know, the chances, and not to put yourself down like that, but, you know, be realistic also and understand.
I have seen that many times. Someone I thought would get through, you know, a smart guy, he didn't, and someone more average has gotten through also. So consistency becomes one of the important things, not just, you know, flashes of brilliance.
Right.
Like friends I thought who would get in, they wrote, and then he gave up within 1-2 years and did something else. If you are in it, you have to be in it for the long run, which means at least basically it takes at least 1 year to cover, you know, the coaching cycle is 1 year to cover the subject and finish it. And then you write the first attempt, right? So if it works out, fine. But in most cases, it doesn't.
Of course.
So you have to give in second, or, you know, invest at least 3 years. There's a lot of money because this coaching,
of course,
it's almost an industry. Back during my time, 2005-06, I think 20,000 was the rate for like a coaching in one subject. These days, I hear it's above 1 lakh also, right? And the stay expenses, because you'll be staying in Delhi, where, you know, one of the things which I did was I tried to stay in a colony where I didn't know people, you know, and close to my coaching place. Because again, going back to Delhi, I have a lot of friends to catch up with. So anonymously, I existed, just go to class, come back, you know.
Smart move.
And after the first year got over, you know, most people come back home with the books and everything. But like I told you, I saw that I needed to really cut down on my social circle. So I decided to stay back. And what I did was, in the Delhi summer, you know, and no AC also, living on student budget. So we looked for libraries. And in Connaught Place, we found 2 libraries, British Library and American Center. British Library, I think there was some fee to get in, but we used to go to the American Library. And you can imagine, the library also, it's a place where you go and everyone else is serious. So so me and a friend who cracked it together, Mijito, so we used to go to the libraries and spend the day there, you know, and then come back in the evenings. So I have one story to tell here. You know, Mij and me, we would go spend the whole day and come back. So in the evenings, we used to pass this Subway, the sandwich place, right?
Right.
So Subway had this thing, sub of the day, right? So even then, I think the cost of one Subway sandwich was probably 120, 130 bucks, like BLT or chicken teriyaki, all these things. But sub of the day is when for 40 bucks in specific days of the week, you can get like, and on that budget, like this is a treat for us. So the very first time we went to Subway, so Mij and me walk in and like, 2 subs of the day, please, na. And the guy who's making it like, extra meat chahiye? Haan, dal dijiye. Extra. You know, he asked for, you want to put this extra? We said, yes. And then when the bill came, obviously all the extra things got charged for, you know. And we ended up paying the same amount we would have paid for. Anyway, that's a side story. But we used to keep going to these libraries and spend our time studying, right? One more thing which I think is important for guys who go there, it's good to have like a group that studies together. And this I'm talking about the second year that I was there, because first year you're going to class, a cycle is there, and a routine is important for this, right? It helps you study, it gives you motivation. But the second year, when it's only books and you, that's when you can slide. What me and a couple of friends did was we formed a group. So there was 3 people, and we used to have group discussions. So what happens in group discussions is you'll have different backgrounds, right? I mean, you may be from an engineering, someone a doctor, someone economy. So when I get explained an economic theory from a friend,
person,
I remember that much more than trying to study it from a book, right? So that's how we helped each other. Yes. And also just a piece of advice for Naga guys, don't make it like an all Naga group, because for us, like, when the 2 Naga guys started getting lazy, we depended on the Tamilian to really push us. So here, a shout out to my 2 friends, Mijito, who got into the foreign service, and he's now in New York, and Vijuvin, who's in the railway service. He's from Tamil Nadu, and he's also posted down there.
So you guys all cleared it at the same year?
I cleared it 1 year before them, and 2 of them after.
All right. Yeah. One thing you touched on, but that's a nice advice, that finding a good peer group, to encourage each other, also learn of each other, and like you said, if they're coming from different backgrounds, it makes it much easier, like, to
you
understand.
have to be like-minded in a certain sense.
Right. Yeah. And I wanted to ask you this. You tweeted recently, and then I found this interesting also, because I believe in that first one. Let me get one thing, on the record. I want to say this because I have on previous episodes talked a lot about the government job and how it's being put up too much on a pedestal, and it's no knock to the government job itself, but the way that the situation has happened in Nagaland, especially in regards to Nagaland, how it's been become we've put it up on a pedestal so high, and there's so much pressure from it's changing, but the parental pressure was there, the societal pressure was there, what post did he get, what not, right? So it's changing, but that's the issue I had, and not more with the job. Obviously, it's a very well respected job, but in regards to the tweet that you put out saying that I'm obviously going to paraphrase, but take time or set time and know how much time you're going to give for this. So I want to ask you, what is, in your opinion, what would be a good time frame, and if you exceed that limit, then it's better you get on with something else. And
right. I think it's important to know when to quit for someone who is getting into writing the civil service exams, be it NPSC or UPSC. Firstly, it takes a year to prepare, so 1 year goes there. Yeah. But if you're serious about it, I think if by the 3rd or 4th attempt you don't clear the prelims, that is the first stage.
Right.
Then I would advise them to,
just pull out.
Yeah. There are things beyond UPSC. There's life beyond UPSC, and if you hang on there for longer than that and you're still not getting through, then there'll be a lot of
losing out on opportunities that you could have been. Yeah.
But of course, if someone passes the prelims at least, then I would encourage them to keep going, because at some point the breakthrough does come if you keep going at it.
So you don't think that there should be a certain, for someone who's been clearing prelims on a regular basis but not trying to get it through? Okay, actually, wait, cut that. I want to ask you on this, because you said you cleared it in 3 years.
Yeah.
And each year you progressed one level.
Yes.
The first year was the prelims, then you cleared the mains, right? So tell us of that journey and how that progression happened. How do you think it happened? Why were you getting, with every year able to go the next step further and eventually clear the exams?
The first time that I wrote it, I was getting familiar with the subjects as well, I think, because I took up new subjects. Though I passed out of engineering, right? I took up geography and public administration as my subjects. So it took some time to get used to it. But like I was saying, I spent time over and above the preparation, which were distractions for me. And see, many times with the preparation, a lot of repetition is required. Some people get stuck with which is the best coaching institute, which is the best book, But what I've learned is that you stick to one of the standards. On the net or through advice, plenty available. You find a standard book, and better to read the one book 3 times than to read three different books once, right? So that's what kept happening in the second and third time, And each time you read it, there's a little more clarity, there's ability to remember it and also use it in the right place while writing the exam. So a lot of consistency in keeping on going through.
I don't want to say this because it makes it sound like I'm saying that it looks easy, but you made it look easy in the sense with each year you progress one step. But I know there would have been so many challenges. So
no, I'll tell you frankly, by the third attempt, there were nights when I couldn't sleep because I was scared. I mean, I'd wake up in cold sweat thinking that I have put everything into this.
What if it doesn't
work out? Because the engineering bridge,
that's gone.
All my friends have already moved on, either doing a master's or MBA or working.
Right.
Whereas I'm there, in Delhi, in this room, just at night thinking. So that's when I think, as the attempts went, accepting the fact that there's a power above you, and because it's so funny that the first time I was so dependent on myself, but each time it went, my efforts, no doubt, it kept improving. But the understanding that, there is something over and above which shapes our ends, I'm going to quote like Shakespeare even. There is a divinity that shapes our ends, which is true even for the person who didn't get through and the one who got,
100%.
See, geography, when I studied geography, this is in relation to you talking about people who don't get through and me finding friends who were smarter than me who didn't get through. Somehow in geography, while studying about the Indian monsoons, you come across the term the vagaries of the monsoons, which is basically the fact that the monsoons are so unpredictable. Some years, somewhere there are floods. In the same time, some part of the country it's dry, droughts. So even with the UPSC, you have to accept the fact that sometimes there's a plan above, and if it is meant to be, it will be. If it is not meant to be, so you have to accept that at a certain point.